15th, 2021 to order at 7 p.m. If you join me in pledging the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Copeland,
Here.
Tom Baylor,
Here.
Kathy Sherman,
Here.
Jeff Guard,
Here.
Alina Meyer is absent, Ann Schaefer,
Here.
David Allison,
Here.
and David Gleason.
Here.
That's a quorum of council.
Approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second. Do we do that?
Have a motion and a second. Any modifications? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved as submitted. Does council have any conflicts of interest or ex parte communications to disclose? Okay. Seeing none, it'd be kind of hard on an agenda this light. Speakers by and petitions from visitors. Do we have any guest speakers from the incident management team or a COVID-19 update?
This is Hannah Sanders. I'm here.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Sanders. Would you like to provide an update?
Sure. Thanks, Mayor. So today we have 8 active cases. The medical response team continues to meet, although we are meeting slightly less regularly. We continue to offer testing for the community that's available 6 days a week. We encourage people after travel to come and get tested, really particularly encouraging people that are unvaccinated after travel to come get tested. We do know that vaccinated people can transmit the virus and come down with COVID, but their period of shedding virus tends to be smaller. So we are more concerned with that unvaccinated group getting the travel testing done. I think that's, the one other thing I really wanted to make sure that I brought up today was the situation in Anchorage. The hospitals are in crisis standards as we've been talking about really for the last couple of weeks. But the large facility, Providence, put a letter out to the community notifying all Alaskans that they're really looking at a point in their healthcare delivery where they're having to ration care. So this is a time for all of us to be extra cautious with all of our activities, not just COVID, but anything that we can do to minimize hospitalizations is important for us to take that action now. Locally, our healthcare facility is still very intact. We are working with the state offering our long-term care and skilled nursing services so that we can help offload some of those patients from other busier hospitals, but certainly paying attention to make sure that we keep bed capacity for our own residents in the community. Any questions?
Any questions, council? Okay, we have a pretty light agenda, Dr. Sanders, if you could hang with us for just a few more minutes. Are there any audience comments regarding agenda items? And for those online, council, we don't have any audience here in the room with us. So, chairpersons and representative boards and commissions. Dr. Sanders, would you like to give us a CCMC Authority Board report?
Sure. We are just finalizing our audit this week, and we'll have that presented to our board from the 2020 audit the end of the month. Both the hospital focus right now is making sure that we are meeting the demand for COVID testing and making sure that we're prepared to help support the state and our local community in the event of increased caseloads here. And that's my only update.
Okay, thank you. If you could hang on for just about 5 minutes, I was hoping you could catch my mayor's report. There was something of relevance in there regarding healthcare. So, school board report.
I'll stay here.
Thank you. School board report. Do we have a school board representative online? Okay, hearing none. We have 2 items on the consent calendar, the minutes of the September 1st, 2021 regular meeting, and per charter section 2-8 and Cordova Municipal Code 3.12.022, recording unexcused absences of Councilmember Jeff Guard for that September 1st meeting. Would council like to set either of those aside? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Ann Schaefer,
Yes.
Kathy Sherman,
Yes.
David Gleason,
Yes.
Tom Baylor,
Yeah.
Jeff Guard,
Yes.
Melina Meyer is absent. David Allison.
Yes.
The consent calendar is approved.
Okay, thank you. And the minutes were in that consent calendar, and we don't have any bids to consider. So reports to officers. I'll just give a verbal mayor's report. There was, we got an email from John Bitney regarding redistricting, and I got two little pieces of information. It looks like it was updated, but right now, the redistricting is showing Cordova still in Kodiak's district, and the feeling is that's probably gonna, that's the way it'll probably ride out. Doesn't seem like there's any body language that there's a desire to change that. However, Bitney did recommend that we send a letter to the Boundary Commission requesting them to come to Cordova. They've done that in the past, and it's good for them to hear directly from the communities what our feelings are about districts and why. So if there's no objection from council, the clerk drafted that letter for the Boundary Commission. I intend to send that out.
Redistricting board.
What's that?
The redistricting board.
Yeah, the redistricting board. Thank you. That's Boundary Commission, the redistricting board. So, so thanks for hanging on, Dr. Sanders. I just want to mention, Helen and I met this week, and I'm planning on going back to DC October 4th through 8th for several items. Native Village of EX going back to advocate on several fronts, including healthcare, Shepherd Point Road, and I've also agreed with Helen to advocate for the waterfront developments and harbor projects and grant applications we have in place there. So the concern is that council, you formed that committee, and I'm not comfortable advocating for anything on healthcare until NVD's had Native Village of EAC has had a chance to meet with that committee and kind of brief them on what their what their goals are and what they're advocating for. And so that's kind of where we're at. And I talked to Helen about that. And I talked to Bert yesterday. He is going to be in town next week. They're kind of putting some, he's working with his team, but he said that he would be reaching out to Helen and meeting with that committee. And that's really who council delegated that to. So that's the appropriate next step. So I just wanted to let you know that as well, Dr. Sanders, you're on that committee. So that's all I had there, except that I'll be coordinating with Helen before I head back because we do have some grant applications active regarding harbor build out and a raise grant and so forth. So I want to make sure I'm carrying that that message when I head back. So any questions on those items? Okay, hearing none. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Clay. Just give a little bit more information on the redistricting. I sat in on their public meetings, and specifically when they were discussing our district. Yakutat is being moved to Southeast Alaska, so that will no longer be a part of ours. Kodiak and Cordova are together, but no other community in Prince William Sound. But they have picked up 3 communities on East End Road out of Homer. The 3 Russian communities that collectively make up about 350 people. And again, they're trying to make sure that every district has around 18,000 people in it. So they're doing a numbers game as well as a political game. So given that there are Russian fishermen who come here regularly, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just an odd thing to be so geographically removed from that group of folks. They're not represented in our community and certainly aren't represented in the Sound. So there'll be an opportunity through Clay's letter for us to request a meeting of the board here in Cordova, whether it's Zoom or something, and we'll have an opportunity to respond to that. But I'll make sure you all get the new boundaries that are proposed at this point. There are 2 different proposals out there, but Cordova, Kodiak, and East End Road communities are in both proposals. Second thing I want to talk about just briefly is we had a really great meeting last week with Dr. Zink, Cole Cutchins, and Dr. Sanders around COVID-19. We were able to solicit questions from the community, and there was some great information shared. That is online on our YouTube Live page on the City of Cordova website, and also on Cordova Prepared. So anyone who didn't get an opportunity to hear the responses and understand where the state is on COVID and the vaccinations, I think it was really informative. And then last night, we held our substance abuse forum. We had 6 panelists, our police chief, representatives, NVE, the clinic with NVE, Dr. Sanders with the hospital, as well as Sound Alternatives. And that was also recorded, and that's also available to be listened to. Again, a lot of great information about the resources available in Cordova and things that are being done here to help mitigate substance abuse problems in our community. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Any questions, council? Okay, City Clerk's report.
I didn't have anything specific to report tonight.
Okay. I just wanted to mention and thank you, Susan, for getting that letter out to boards and commissions for vacant positions and so forth coming up towards the end of the year. So good reminder. Really appreciate all the volunteer work the community does on those boards and commissions, and there will be opportunities to serve. We don't have unfinished. Oh, wait a sec. Let's not skip too far ahead here. Ordinances and resolutions. We have correspondence on page 4. None this time. Oh, wait a second.
Yeah, there's not.
Yeah, we do have the primer there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any comments on that, council?
No, that just goes in every
Yeah.
time.
Oh, okay.
No correspondence.
I do recall saying that. Resolution 09-21-39 is a resolution of the Council of the City of Cordova, Alaska, extending the city's declaration of a local emergency arising from COVID-19.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion, Schaefer, and second, Guard. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councilman Schaefer?
Just that we're still experiencing COVID. We're at the highest cases of, I think, our hospitalizations in our state currently. So I don't think now is the time. We need to have flexibility to respond quickly and be eligible for, funding support as well.
Councilman Guard?
Kind of along the same line. I don't know that it's really going to make a huge difference to us as we sit right now, but it does give us a bigger tool bag. So if anything does crop its head up like it seems to be going towards, we'd be a little bit quicker to respond. And if not, it's not going to be off anybody's nose.
You bet.
So in favor.
Okay, thank you. Helen?
I just wanted to share that both Dr. Sanders and Holly Wells, our attorney, are on the phone and can certainly speak to any questions that you might have, but they could also share some information if you like.
Okay, thank you. Discussion, council?
Councilman Sherman.
Councilman Sherman?
I'm fully in support of this. If you look at where we're going with the state right now, and the state does not even have this in place, and you look at the numbers, and you look at the hospitals, and you listen to Dr. Saunders and Dr. Zink, and I think this is a no-brainer. So I'm in favor.
Thank you. Councilman Gleason?
Yeah, I'm in favor of it. I was just curious, Helen, have we secured funding already?
We are in the throes of our FEMA application, and we are eligible in what they call projects. So right now, we're working on last year's projects, and when those are done, we would be eligible through the end of our emergency order. possibly later than that. So at this point, since the emergency order ends at the end of September, we're eligible for any reimbursement expenses that are eligible for FEMA through that date.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know.
Councilman Baylor?
I support it.
Okay. Councilman Garden?
So one quick follow-up question. You were saying that reimbursement goes through the current declaration that we're in right now. Will it then extend on out if we have no time lapse in our emergency?
It sort of remains to be seen. And Holly, I don't know if you were able to find out any information, but FEMA, because there's a federal emergency that the president has declared, there is some thought that we will be eligible under that umbrella, even if the state doesn't have an emergency order, which it doesn't at this moment in time, and our community doesn't have an emergency order. But I can't speak legally about how that might look. Holly?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, we don't know. I mean, we know that FEMA has responsibilities to the city because the city has triggered its emergency operations plan. And we know that when the state had a declaration of emergency, that triggered that FEMA's responsibility to the city. I would hope that FEMA would do everything they could to provide that assistance based on the federal declaration, but we haven't, we have no way to know what that would look like. So hopefully they would, but we don't have a solid answer.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion online, Council?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this is Allison.
Councilman Allison?
Yeah, I do not support the motion. Actually, I've stated before at this table that the emergency was long gone, long ago. Now we're pretty much in what's going to be operating procedure for the next 20 or 50 years or however long it's going to last. There's nothing that can come up at this point in time that we can't have an emergency meeting for if it's needed, and we just don't need to be under emergency orders any longer at this point in time. The state isn't. We aren't. It's not going to affect our funding, and I just don't support it. So I see I'm on the one side of the fence here, but I'm sticking with it. I don't think there's any need for an emergency, and I've stated that before, and I'll stick with that.
Okay, further discussion, Council? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion carries. So we don't have unfinished business on this agenda. Any discussion of COVID emergency response, Council?
Yes, I would just,
Councilman Gleason?
I would just say that just because we did the emergency order doesn't mean there's any mandates. There's still no mandates, no mask mandate, none of that stuff. So I just wanted to remind people that this is strictly for, in my mind, it's strictly to receive any funding that comes down the road.
Okay, Councilman Schaefer?
Are there any updates to the information about the airport ambassadors?
So the state, we had a contract with the state to provide the ambassadors through the end of August. And we were winding that whole thing down. And then the state came back and said, we really, really, really want you to continue. Not only did we want you to continue, but we want to offer testing at the airport. So Heather Brannon, who is our hired gun for all things COVID related at this point in time for the city emergency response, has secured a commitment from NVE to use one of their clinic cans that will be placed at the airport, and the rapid tests will be available there and ambassadors will be on hand to administer those tests, or individuals can do them themselves. So that's my understanding. I think the devil's in the details still, and the expectation is probably by the end of this month that'll be up and running.
Thank you.
Further COVID discussion, Council? Okay, any pending agenda items? Okay, hearing none. We don't have any audience here to participate. Any audience participation from our call-ins? Okay, hearing none. Council comments, and I'll start online with Vice Mayor Sherman.
I just wanted to express thanks to Dr. Saunders, because I know she's done an extraordinary amount of work this week with some of the emergency crisis situations in the hospitals, and I know she is looking out at our best interest for our community, and I think we all need to really listen to her and to Dr. Zink. And then also wanted to thank Susan for the updates on boards and commissions, and I have been reaching out to those that I work with, and also to the work on the grants for the harbor that's going on. There's a lot of funding out there. I just finished some funding for the grant applications for the Historical Society, so there is some funding out there, but it's taking a lot of work and energy on people's parts, and I understand what that means to the city staff, so I just wanted to thank them.
Thank you. Councilman Baylor.
Yeah, just I'd give a shout out to our medical staff too down there in Cordova, both at Cordova City Hospital and Lanka. They do an amazing job. I know it's got to be frustrating at times, but really appreciate them. Thank you.
Councilman Allison.
No comment. Thank you.
Councilman Schaefer.
Yeah, I'd also like to thank Dr. Sanders for, not only managing everything down at the hospital and with the medical response team, but also then assisting with the COVID forum with Dr. Zink and Cutchins, and also with the forum last night. So she's a busy lady, and she's doing a lot for our community. And yeah, thank you for everyone for organizing that forum last week, the COVID forum. It was super interesting and informative. And also the drug forum last night, I wasn't able to attend, but I'm glad it's on YouTube so that I can enjoy from the comfort of my own home. And yeah, please spread the word about the different boards. Get involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Garden.
Yeah, I'd like to start off by echoing all those comments before me, and would also encourage anybody who hasn't had a chance to read it yet. There's a copy of a letter that the head of the Providence Hospital put out today, and I would highly advise everybody to read it. It lets you know just what the state of healthcare possibilities is if we end up needing more healthcare than we can get here in Cordova, or I should say what the possibilities really aren't. There were a lot of suggestions on, well, there were more than suggestions, there were a lot of recommended actions you can take, actions you shouldn't be taking these days. We're at a bad place healthcare-wise statewide. We're doing great here in Cordova, but we can only do so much here with what we've got. And if we need to go elsewhere, we're getting awful limited. But I would advise anybody who hasn't had a chance to read it yet to please read it. It was in an article in the ADN today and easy to pull up and read. That's all.
Thank you. Councilman Gleason.
I just echo the comments about the medical team and Dr. Saunders. And I did like that forum. I watched it on YouTube, and A lot of good information there, a lot of really good, they almost didn't have to answer any questions because of their opening remarks really covered a lot, so. And having the epidemiologist or whatever he was, that guy, he was really sharp. So, learned a few things there. And I also like to thank my fellow councilmen for sitting in these chairs, because I'll tell you what, this is it was a rough year last year, and this is not an easy job. So, I appreciate you guys. That's it.
Also volunteers. Council, if I could revert to Mayor's report for just a moment, I did want to mention, there's been some talk about the ferry schedule. We are switching to the Kennecott for October, November, but then we get back on the Aurora again for the rest of the winter. And so that's what the state had indicated. It's what we asked for, that we get the Aurora and the Sound. So really, really pleased to see that, and probably put together a thank you letter for that. They did say that they could reduce that Aurora layup to as little as 2 weeks if they do the work at Seward, but that's that shipyard's kind of been restructuring and stuff. But anyway, it's going to be good to have the ferry back again. So with that, just one more item.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, we're adjourned. 25 minutes, Susan.
Record.
Pretty good.